Come on, Livingston, we gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in. It's Pittman who's got it. Livingston leads.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead.
Man, you score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hay celebrates. And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Hello and welcome back to TalkLivi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club. My name's Ewan and today I'm joined by the usual boys, Andy and Callum Waugh. Rooney again misses out, which shouldn't really come as a shock these days, should it, lads?
No, not at all. Shock horror, Bruni calls off at the last minute, so just the three is again. It's becoming a bit of a regular theme, so we better get used to it.
We again come to you via a Zoom call, so please accept our apologies if the audio isn't as good as usual. But we are trying our best to bring you some content here again on TalkLivi. So anyway, coming up this week, we take a look at new signing Jay Emmanuel Thomas before looking back at Friday night's game with Dundee United. International football is also back. We discuss the squad and Scotland's chances. And finally this week, we look ahead to our two Betfred Cup games against Edinburgh City and Alloa.
So before getting into Friday night's game with Dundee United, Livi welcomed another new signing, amazingly our third number 9 of the season so far. The Jet landed in West Lothian, Jay Emmanuel Thomas that is. So let's hope this one lasts a little bit longer than the last. What do we make of the signing, boys?
It's a bit similar to the Stokes one in a sense that he's not played a lot of football recently. But he came through Arsenal's youth setup, which is pretty renowned in European football for producing good quality players. And he's had a decent career down south. His most prolific spell was at Bristol City, where he got quite a few goals over a few seasons there. So, I think he'll probably fit into the way we play a little bit in the sense that he's big, he's physical, he could lead the line that way. I mean, seeing a lot of comments from clubs that he's played for before on our kind of social media channels, there's a lot of folks saying when he's on it, he can be pretty much unplayable, but he's kind of one of those players that is a mood player almost. If he's in the mood for it, then he'll be an absolute handful. So it's whether we can get the best out of him. I think the Betfred Cup games coming up are an ideal opportunity for him to get minutes and kind of get used to his surroundings a little bit more. So yeah, hopefully he's a bit more useful than Anthony Stokes. Wouldn't be hard. If he kicks a ball, if he comes on for a minute, he's already a more effective signing than Anthony Stokes. So, but yeah, hopefully this one works out.
I had a little look into the last 3 seasons, as Ewan was mentioning. He's not really kicked a ball. I think he's played 11 games in the last 3 seasons. That's probably professional games. But when I put his name into Google and had a little look at the news articles, he's been playing quite a few bounce games down south for a non-league club in England that his brother plays for. So he's probably got a bit of match sharpness about it. It's probably not going to be to the standard that we're looking for. We know how well drilled we like the boys to be, and everyone coming in and everyone needs to be at it. But I don't think it's going to take him as long as it was for Stokes to be at the level that we want. And I think, as Ewan said, the Betfred Cup games are massive. If he can hit even a little bit of form that he had at Bristol City or Cardiff, then I think we're onto a player. But it's going to be interesting just to see. It's one of the signings that you kind of look at and going, well, you can see why he's ended up at us if he's not really played. So hopefully he comes in, does a job, takes us to Europe. No asking too much of the boy, but that's all we want.
Yeah, I'm cautious about this one, given the fact that we went all in on Stokes when we signed him on the podcast in terms of how much we thought it was an excellent signing. I'm cautious with what I say about Jay Emmanuel Thomas. On paper, I think the signing fits the club. Big, strong boy, physical. He'll hold the ball up. If he can get 8 to 12 goals, I think we're doing well out of him. I think I agree with you, Ewan, reading between the lines on Twitter and things for other clubs. It almost seems like he's a type of player that needs to feel loved at his club. You know, he went to QPR, didn't quite work, fans got on his back, struggled there, went out on loan. But at Bristol City, he was seen as a hero. Fans loved him, he performed well, that was his best spell in his career. So he's almost that type of player that if the fans get behind him and you know, they love him almost in what he does, then I think we'll get the best out of him. So I think it's really important we do that. I like the signing, but as I say, I'm cautious about it. I think Tiffany's came in and done well, so I don't expect him to come straight into the league games. But I agree that the Betfred Cup gives a good opportunity to get him almost up and running in the sort of league and on the pitches, all plastic pitches, of course. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he settles in at the club. There was, of course, no place for him in the squad on Friday night as we faced a trip north to face Dundee United at Tannadice. A win would lift the club above our opponents and into the top 6 for the first time this season. And it was the same group of players that lined up against United that started and won against St Johnstone last week. I think arguably we produced our performance of the season so far, didn't we?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
I thought we were at it from the first minute. I thought we were brilliant.
Yeah, can't argue with that at all. I think we were absolutely bang at it. You know, we talked on the podcast last year, it was the Motherwell home game. And we said, we kind of argued, is that one of our best ever performances in general? I would put that Dundee United performance up there in terms of the way we absolutely dominated them from start to finish. I mean, the goal, let's be honest, it shouldn't have even been a free kick. It should have been a free kick to Serrano in the first place. I've no debate about the free kick being awarded to Dundee United, but I don't think, you know, there was a foul in the build-up to that. Nicky Clark's taken it well, but that's their only effort on goal. It's the only time they, you know, and that's not even a clear-cut chance. It's a free kick from 25 yards. And, you know, first half, I felt kind of first 20 minutes, we touched on it whilst we were watching the game, that there was occasionally we were a bit slack in possession, you know, in kind of middle third and the final third, but we were still creating opportunities. We were still getting in and around them, and should have at a minimum been at half-time level. Robinson had a couple of really good chances. Tiff's had a good chance as well. Second half, we came out with the exact same attitude. I don't think the gaffer and Davey would have had to say a lot at half-time because the performance was there. I think they just basically had to encourage them to keep doing what they were doing. And got the equaliser. Brilliant assist by Bartley. Brilliantly taken by Big Bad John. And for me, there was only one team that looked like winning the game from there on in. And the goal it had, we all touched on it as well, watching the game, it had it reminiscent of that goal that Pittman scored at Tannadice, you know, the press. Poplatnik does brilliantly to nick the ball off Connolly. We talked about it last week on the podcast. There's a mistake in him getting caught on the ball. That's exactly what happened. Robinson does brilliantly to keep the ball alive, and then, you know, Pittman rolls in Poplatnik, and fair play to Matty. Very unselfish, rolls in Forrest, and we got exactly what we deserved on Friday night. And you know, it also puts me top of the prediction league, which is an added bonus as well.
Do you know, on Friday night, we weren't bothered by their high press because it allowed us to go wide to the fullbacks. And when that's basically what we exploited in the first half. That's where we were getting majority of our chances. McCrory going wide to Serrano or Devlin and playing off the second ball there. But then when we were winning those flick-ons, the two centre mids have pressed so high up the park that's where Pittman and Holt were able to get the space to actually go on and drive and start the attacks. How many chances did Pittman link up in that first half? You look at the ones for Robinson. Pittman was, I thought, was probably one of our best players on Friday night. I thought he was back to his best. He was doing what he was doing. He was driving with the ball. He was trying to link up with player, and it was always going forward. He wanted to go forward, and I thought Serrano was a brilliant out ball. on the left-hand side, he stopped Chalmers playing. Logan Chalmers was one of their best players that we were coming into. He was in form. He'd been called into the under-21 squad for Scotland, and everyone was raving about him. And that's what I ended up listening to Dundee United commentary on Friday night for the game. And what they were basically saying is they're going into the game going, this is going to be 2-3-0, routine victories. Livingston haven't won in grass. They can't play football. They're just a big team. You look at probably the forward 5 players that are breaking forward. You've got Holt, Robinson, Forrest, Pittman and Tiffany. And what we've done is we've just done what we've done previously. We played in the right areas. We'll go long into a stage and we use our out balls properly, and then we actually went and played football. Forrest cutting in with Serrano overlapping, it allowed Robinson to come in because Devlin's actually pushed further up the park on Friday night as well. And we actually looked a threat every time we got the ball going forward. And then Guthrie's finish for the first one, for a centre-half to put the ball out like that in the top corner is absolutely brilliant. That is a beautiful, beautiful finish. And Marv's kept it composed to play the ball in as well. And I think we got exactly what we deserved. It probably should have been a lot more convincing, but there's nothing better than a 90th minute winner. That 90th minute winner, and I think, as you and said, Platnick deserves a lot of credit for that goal. The work rate to go and force a mistake, because that's not, if there's no pressure put on him there's no mistake. Edwards has made an arse of it, and then Connolly's just completely made an arse of it. And we've got in and we've managed to nick it right at the end, and you can't beat that. It was great to see all the Dundee United fans greeting on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I think you have said it all, to be honest. Outstanding performance for us, dominated from start to finish. It all, you know, the first half when we went behind, even despite early in the game, controlling the game, in the ascendancy, creating chances, they go up the park and score. You've obviously mentioned it, that there was a foul on Serrano, a clear foul right in front of the referee. How he's missed it is just utterly baffling, to be honest. Dundee United get one exactly the same, which, like you say, is a foul, but it shouldn't have came about in the first place. At first, when the ball went in, I did question the wall slightly, but looking back at it, it's just a terrific free kick. I don't think the wall can be positioned any better, to be honest. He's put it that close to the wall and curled it that much that it's just a brilliant finish. I don't think there's anything that could be done about that. Many teams would have went 1-0 down, us included in the past, and kind of not thrown in the towel, but felt a bit sorry for ourselves, going behind after dominating, but we didn't do that. I thought we stuck at it. Again, we took control of the game, created numerous opportunities. Robbo again. I think the thing that I noticed the most this season so far is the way we're changing the style slightly. You know, over the last few years, I feel like we've went not long, but longer passes wise, and sort of gave up possession almost to break on teams. This season, take out Celtic, Rangers and Hibs, I feel like we've been far more possession based. I think every other game we've had more possession than any of the other teams. We've got players higher up the park. I think it was highlighted on Sportscene actually, 5-6 players in the box every time we attacked. And I think it shows in terms of us scoring wise. I think we're the 4th highest scorers in the league this season, despite not having a striker supposedly, which is quite remarkable. But I think no less than we deserve. As you say, we were almost back to ourselves in terms of pressing the ball. I think I highlighted last week about the Bartley-Butcher contest. Bartley had him in his back pocket. I think Ambrose and Guthrie had Shanklin in their back pockets. He barely got a touch, every 3 or 4 touches in the entire game. And yeah, we just pressed them, forced mistakes. And the second goal epitomises everything about us in terms of harassing players of the opposition, forcing mistakes, winning the ball. And I think great credit has to go to Pavlatnik. I thought we lost a bit of attacking threat when he came on, but fair play to him. He forced that mistake. He then showed that composure to pass it over to Forrest, and heart was in mouth when the whistle went. I thought, didn't tell me it's offside, but looking back, it's clearly on, and a brilliant win, a much deserved win for sure.
I think the game was won in the middle of the park, because I think the 2 players that really stuck out for me were Bartley and Hope. Personally, I think they just absolutely dominated the midfield. Every second ball, they picked it up, and they just recycled it and kept the play going all the time. And that just epitomised the whole performance. And I think the front four were constantly causing issues. Agree with you, was Serrano. I pointed it out watching the game. The amount of times the diagonal comes across to Serrano and he wins the ball in the air, he's a great out ball in that sense. Devlin was getting in behind 2 or 3 times as well. Like we look a much. I said this watching us the Motherwell game. We look a bit of a different animal. In terms of going away from home, I think we've got more confidence to try and take the game to teams away from home, because our attacking displays on the road have been much better this year. I've enjoyed watching us away from home, actually. And, you could see that on Friday night. We had 16 efforts on goal, I think it was. Keepers made 6 saves. We look a much bigger threat. And that's credit to Gary and Davey for trying to put the onus on the team to, instead of going away from home, go, let's try and hang on. Let's go and get the result rather than kind of just hanging and trying to hold out for something.
Semple mentioned about the free kick as well, and I've seen a few folk mentioning the wall positioning, but we were down to 10 men at that point because Serrano's went off the field. I think there's an extra man in that wall if Serrano's on the park. I think they're putting someone else on, or the wall's going over a bit further, because we're a man down when we're defending that there, because Serrano's went off for treatment. And I don't think you can blame McCrory. It's a perfect free kick. It's right in the bottom corner. I don't think there's any. I've seen a few folk asking questions of McCrory again, but for me, there's nothing in that there for him.
Yeah, I think you obviously mentioned the dominance in the midfield. See, when you look at our side, and we mentioned it early in the season, and a lot of people maybe got ahead of ourselves, but I think we're now starting to see the benefits of having that spine of our team again. You look at, you've got Guthrie and Ambrose, who seem to be the settled back pairing now, Holt and Bartley, then you've got Pittman up there as well. So much experience in there, solid players at this level of the game, and they're proving it all of a sudden against the likes of St Johnstone and Dundee United, teams that notoriously are difficult to break down and difficult to get the better of. And we've done it fairly comfortably, especially against Dundee United. I mean, I think you said it earlier, one of our best performances since returning to the Premiership. Certainly one of our best, if not our best, away from home since returning to the Premiership. It couldn't have been more one-sided if you tried, and 4, 5, 6 probably wouldn't have flattered us. When you look back at the chances, you had Robinson with a couple, you had Ambrose, who absolutely missed a header for 6 yards out. He should have done better. There's a couple of other ones. Tiffany through, probably should have cut it back to Forrest in the first half as well. Take these chances. We win the game comfortably, and we've mentioned it over the last few weeks that we are expecting to give someone a bit of a hiding, because we've been playing relatively well and creating chances and just not taking them. If we'd taken them on Friday night, we win that game so much easier. But I think what you said was tremendous to get that kind of last minute win. No better feeling in football, I don't think, than getting almost a last minute winner. So really good, really important 3 points, and obviously pushes us into the top 6 now. Amazing the difference that 2 results make. A couple of weeks ago we're talking doom and gloom, bottom of the league. All of a sudden we're now looking above us, thinking a win against Kilmarnock in a few weeks' time. That would take us actually on games. We played after 11 games last season. I think we had 13 points. If we go and beat Kilmarnock, we go on 14 points. So it's amazing how things can change so quickly in the league. There's a muchness between teams from 5th place down, and there's no reason why we can't be best of the rest this season with the squad we've got.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I kind of touched on that before the Dundee United game, again in one of the group chats, that when I looked back at last season, there's genuinely not an awful lot of difference in terms of the results we've had, or number of wins, etc. So we're not far off what we were doing at this stage last season. So I think there's a lot of fans who are kind of hitting panic buttons and starting to get really concerned. But for me, we were kind of where we should be at, if you compare it to last year. You touch on the last minute winner. I think a few folk have said that's our first kind of last minute winning goal since the Friday night game thoroughly enough at Livi, and it was against Dundee United, Ryan Hardy's goal in the Championship season. So we obviously like late goals against Dundee United. It's obviously our thing, especially at Tannadice as well. We seem to have a knack for it there as well now. But yeah, I'm now looking forward to the Killie game. Obviously, there's been issues at Kilmarnock with the outbreak that they've had in their squad, so need to self-isolate for 14 days, whether they'll be able to play their Betfred games, etc. So the game's in a wee bit of doubt. But if you go and look at that, there's an example down south at Leyton Orient had to go and play a game yesterday, and they had a training session 2 hours before the game. You know, so I don't see why, if that was the case, that Kilmarnock don't need to fulfil the fixture if their isolation period's over and they're able to play. So hopefully we can carry on this form. We all pinpointed this run of fixtures that we've got, which is quite favourable to us, and hopefully we can pick up points against Kilmarnock when we get back to league business.
International football returns once again, and it's one of the most important breaks for the country in a long time as we face up to that long-awaited playoff semi-final with Israel, alongside 2 Nations League games with Slovakia and the Czech Republic. It's always a hotly contested debate when it comes to this segment, so here goes. Squad-wise, are we all happy?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't look at the squad and see anyone alarming. One's really kind of Ollie Buck. I still don't understand how he gets call up. Tell you what, his agent must be remarkable to have got him some of the moves he's got. It gives me hope that I can still make it as a professional at 29. But other than Ollie Buck, I can't really dispute much with the squad. I think that's one thing I would always say since Clark's came in. I think the squad on kind of merit, and guys getting called up. Good to see Ryan Fraser back in. He's a player I really rate. I think he's one of our best kind of attacking threats as well, and gives us a bit of kind of width in the squad. Obviously he's signed for Newcastle and he's back kind of playing more regularly, so it's good to see him back in the squad. But yeah, I can't really dispute many of the guys in. Porteous getting called up. To be fair, Hibs have started the season really well, but having watched the highlights on Friday night, I really do hope that Porteous doesn't play the Israel game in particular, because he had an absolute bomb scare in the second half, giving away a penalty and an own goal. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the squad that's been selected for the games.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at the squad, I don't think there's really any surprises. We fully expected the ones that are in to be in. Ryan Fraser, like you mentioned, back in the squad after signing for Newcastle, playing a couple of games. That was kind of expected. Robin McCrory, good to see him involved again. Obviously, he's probably not going to play, but good to see him involved in the squad. Good recognition for him again. The only one, and I get why he's there, but the only one that I think we slightly overrate in this country is Stephen O'Donnell. I'm not convinced by him at all. I don't think he's particularly had a great start to the season. I get why he's there. Steve Clarke trusts him, but he's playing for Motherwell. Motherwell started slow. He started particularly slow. So he's probably the only one. The other ones that I believe could be some changes in the squad. It's always difficult to do this segment at the beginning or at the beginning of the week because there usually is call-offs. I noticed that Palmer came on for Sheffield Wednesday yesterday and got taken off 10 minutes later with an injury. So potentially one that might drop out. Scott McKenna, who never featured at all for Nottingham Forest, he's potentially out. So there's a couple that maybe drop out of the squad. Is there any that you can think of that maybe comes in to replace them?
It doesn't matter who comes in to replace McKenna because he'll be better. He is absolutely honking. Everyone knows my opinion on Scott McKenna. So, no, I think if McKenna drops out, they'll just be looking at Liam Cooper. He's made a decent start to life in the Premier League, I would say. He never played the Liverpool game, but I think he's played every game since. And Leeds have made a strong start.
Again, touching on the O'Donnell one, Andy, you talk about a right back who's in a bit of form just now. What about Nicky Devlin? Nicky's had a decent start to the season, and you're talking how O'Donnell's had a slow start. It's a bit of a problem position. We've kind of talked about it before with the Scotland squad. Is it one that could have been looked at? Even just seeing what he's like in the squad or something like that?
It's not a terrible shout. Nicky is one that I think everybody said at the start of the season that if he kicks on, he's one that's worth a look for Scotland. Not a terrible shout. It depends how we line up as well. It depends if Clark sticks with a 3 at the back or if he plays a 4. If we play a 4, I mean, there's a potential to play Tierney and Robertson right and left back. I know that's kind of out of position slightly. But the other one that I maybe consider playing right back is Ryan Jack, who's played there for Steve Clark not so long ago in a previous fixture. And obviously he's back in the squad. He was almost a vital part of the squad before sort of the last group of games, played sort of defensive midfielder. He's one that potentially think about playing there if we are going with the back 4. I can see us probably going with the 3 at the back. That seems to be the favoured formation now. Tierney probably playing sort of the left side of defence, with Cooper probably, like you say, he'll probably come in. Striking wise, McBurney's now available. Now, I'm not McBurney's biggest fan. If he pulls out, which he generally does anyway, do you think Dykes keeps his place? Given his form and given how he played in the previous games, international break, do you think Dykes keeps his place ahead of McBurney?
100%. I think Dykes keeps his place. Going by Clark's reaction to both games, he was really impressed with him. I think, the Israel game, he was the one rare performance that came out with plaudits from that game. Obviously, he grabbed the goal against the Czech Republic as well. I think he's not looked out of place at that level. And, I touch on it a bit with the international football. I think kind of being in possession of the jersey, he's been in good form for QPR as well. Yeah, I think he starts the games again. I don't see why you would drop him. He's had a couple of really good performances. As I say, club football, he's playing well. Why change something if it's not broke?
I can see Clark going with Ollie Burke up front. He started every game, I think, for Sheffield United since he went in. He's kept McBurney on the bench. And
put down the crack pipe, War.
No, honestly. And do you know, reading between the lines, I had a little look because I seen Ollie Burke was trending on Twitter, and I was like, oh, even better. I think he's had a howler. I think it was last weekend, and a lot of Sheffield United fans were actually saying how good he looked, which I was very, very surprised at, because every time I've seen him play, he's been absolutely honking.
Yeah, he's done that well at Sheffield United that they've not won a game and they've barely scored a goal yet. I think that tells you everything, that they're desperate for someone to come in, which is why they've just signed Brewster for Liverpool for a club record fee. Burke, it's a no for me. I'm with Ewan. I don't understand what he brings to the table, especially at international level. Bit of a headless chicken. I think what we've seen for Dykes is exactly what we need from a Scotland striker, holding up the ball, bringing our better players into play. Because let's be honest, our better players are in that sort of attacking midfield place. So if we can bring the likes of Christie and McGinn into play from a striker that holds up the ball, then you're going to create chances, and that's what we need. We don't need someone that's going to run about like a headless chicken up top without doing very little, doing very much. Shanklin, I think we've seen on Friday night. I mean, again, I've kind of made my feelings clear about Shanklin. I think he's got a lot to prove. I don't think he's done it yet. Personally, I don't think he should be in the squad. He's not done it at the Premiership level. Looking at the games then, first one's the big one, Israel at home in the playoff semi-final. How do we see that going?
Simple. I'm not saying that Burke should start. I would go with Dykes every day of the week. I'm just saying I think Clark will do that. But I think Israel, I think it's a game that we need to go. We need to go and try and attack. We need to go and try and get the victory. I can see us going the exact same starting 11, apart from obviously. Well, I was going to say it would be this exact same starting 11 apart from Forrest. But now that McKenna's potentially injured as well, then could be a few changes. Could be a change of formation. But I think that Israel game, we've got to target the victory, and then look at whoever we get, Norway or Serbia, after that.
I fancy us to beat Israel. I know the performance in the Nations League game wasn't great, It was an experimental game almost with the formation and stuff. I fancy him to go to a back four again. I don't think the McTominay experiment worked in the last international break. Get the best out of McTominay by putting him in, kind of sitting in front of the back four with someone else. I think he might go back to a back four. If he does that, I'm very confident that we can go and beat Israel. You know, we kind of know what to expect from them a little bit more under their new manager, having played them. It's almost kind of like a free scouting mission we got last month. So, yeah, I fancy us to go and beat Israel and make the playoff final, which will be a tough game regardless of who we get.
I think the big thing is going into these games, players have got a bit of football under their belts. You know, given we played them earlier in the season when we had barely kicked a ball in sort of domestic level, never mind international level, which I think showed. Going into these games, I think that'll make a big difference. I think we've got to go in as favourites against Israel. We've got to win the game, lift the spirits of the nation almost. And then, like you say, we look at the playoff final. It's going to be a tough one to get through that, but we've got to be there first. Quick look at the other two games before we move on. Slovakia and the Czech Republic in the Nations League. We've had a pretty good start to that, given the performances. 4 points, both at home. Should we be targeting wins, or how many points should we be targeting from those games?
Well, I don't think Slovakia are quite as good a team as they maybe were before when we've had them in our group, going back to kind of 2017. I think we had them in our group with England, beat them at home, got comprehensively beaten away. You know, they got a bit of a doing off the Czech Republic, albeit the Czech Republic's kind of first team. So yeah, I think we could definitely go and beat Slovakia. I think the Czech Republic are going to be it's going to be a very different game to the last one, in the sense that I think they'll have a full squad available. So that one could be a bit of a tricky one. If we were to go and take 4 points from the two, I'd be over the moon. I think it would be a really good return. Finally this week, it's time to look ahead to our next two games. It's the beginning of the Betfred Cup group stages. We face a double header against Edinburgh City on Tuesday, followed by a home game with Alloa on Saturday. So we'll start with the game on Tuesday, a trip to face Edinburgh City at Ainsley Park, home of Spartans, of course. It's a hard one to predict, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Given Edinburgh City's not had any competitive games, I think this Betfred Cup group stage is going to be very interesting, given that it's all sort of teams in the lower leagues without having played any games other than sort of friendlies. I think Edinburgh City, they've played 3 friendlies anyway, but no one of great standard. I think they've played civil service strollers, Pennycook and a Hearts 11. I think they were meant to be playing Falkirk, but that game got postponed. I think Falkirk were preparing for another game. I think they had a few injuries, so they cancelled that game. So they've won 2, 4-0, 3-0, and they drew with the Hearts 11, 1-1. Not a lot I can tell you about the games. You know, I got that information off of their own Twitter. I think the one that everybody knows for Edinburgh City is the boy Blair Henderson. Scored a lot of goals. I think he was linked with us at one point in terms of coming in potentially and having a look at him. But obviously that didn't happen. But he's obviously a goal scorer. Scored a lot of goals for Edinburgh City. And I think, you know, Edinburgh City, I feel a bit sorry for them in a way. You know, over the last few years, they've invested in their squad quite significantly. They've been there or thereabouts in terms of getting promotion from League 2. But every time they've had a team come up who have spent a little bit more than them. So, yeah, I feel a bit sorry for them, but it's hard for us to predict. You would think that we'll be too good for them in this game, having played competitively. I can see us making a few changes, of course, in the starting 11, giving the squad a bit of game time. But, yeah, I would think that we'll be too strong for them, for sure.
I think, as you were saying, Andy, it's going to be hard to kind of look into these games, give a decent description of what the opposition are going to be basically lining up against. Got a couple of players that are probably recognised from their old Hibs days, and also you've got Ballatoni that was at Thistle. and Callum Crane that was at Livingston that went out on loan when he was with us as well. And then you've got players that probably never really lived up to their full potential, and Danny Hanlon and Alex Harris.
Basically a retirement home for rejection Hibs players.
I'm sure that the Edinburgh City manager is actually the old Hibs youth coach from the 95. So it's like a lot of guys that'll probably be around 24, 25 that have ended up going in there that never really made it because he's coached them from a young age. I'm sure that was what was happening at Edinburgh City, but I could be wrong.
Nah, you're pretty much spot on. I think there was a link in the sense that one of the ex-Hibs youth coaches who had a very good kind of Hibs youth team at the time, guys have kind of dropped down the levels. They've ended up kind of reuniting at Edinburgh City. I think these games, it's going to be very tough for all the lower league sides, because they've typically the Betfred Cup games for us, we've almost seen them as pre-season games. The way we've incorporated them in, and they're obviously looking at them more on the competitive side. Whilst for them, these are almost pre-season games for them. Try to get up to speed. We've been playing since the 1st of August, competitive games. So I think for us, I can see a lot of changes getting made these next 2 games for us. Giving minutes to guys, try to get them to settle in. We touched on it. Emmanuel Thomas, I think, will probably get a run out over the next couple of games. Guys like McMillan, I think he'll feature. Fitzspot, who's been coming back from injury, and Poplatnik, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of give him more minutes and get him more used to the kind of pace and speed of the game here. So I think, obviously, we've got 3 guys that won't feature, which are Brown, Lawson, McCrory on international duty. I would have said Lawson would be a good opportunity for him to get minutes under his belt as well. But I think it's a good chance for us to kind of look at other folk in the squad and give them minutes, which will help. That might aid Edinburgh City in a way, and Alloa as well, in the sense that might have a slightly more disjointed team from our side of things if we're kind of putting a team together rather than a regular kind of 11. So yeah, they're interesting games, difficult to predict, but I think the fitness aspect of it is going to play a massive part over the next 2 games. The fact that we've been playing competitively for a good couple of months now is going to be the big difference.
We also probably need to wait and see what happens with the COVID testing as well, if they come back with any positive tests. Because I think, has it been agreed that the Premier League clubs are footing the bill for the lower league clubs?
Not necessarily, no. I think there's some clubs that have offered to foot the bill. I think there's others that haven't. I know Ross County had offered. I don't think St Johnstone offered to cover costs. So I think it's just been, a choice thing from the Premiership sides. I think it's a good gesture if they have to kind of help the lower league clubs. But I know we don't really like doing predictions for these sort. This is a very difficult one to predict anyway. But what we think in prediction wise for Edinburgh City.
Like you kind of mentioned, it's a tough one to predict. As you said, I can see there've been a few changes. Obviously, Stryjek will come in. I can see McMillan, Aaron Taylor, Sinclair maybe getting a run out. Pignatello probably getting a game. Maybe Sibbald, he's not featured the last couple of games. So I think the team we'll put out will still be good enough and strong enough to win the game comfortably. And I think you mentioned that fitness should tell. We've been at that competitive level. All these players have been playing competitively. So I think we will run out in this game fairly comfortable winners. I'm going to go 3-0 for Livingston. I think it'll be a comfortable afternoon for us, and we'll pick them off at the back. So hopefully we win that game. And 3-0 I'm going for.
I'm going to go 2-0 Livi.
I'm the same as you, Andy. I'm going 3-0. I think we'll beat them quite comfortably. But next up, we then face Championship side Alloa at the Tony Macaroni Arena. And just like Tuesday night, it's a difficult one to predict given the current situation with these teams having not played competitively yet. So Alloa pre-season, they've had friendlies against a Killie 11 and Stranraer. Lost 3-2 to Killie and beat Stranraer 3-1. They lost Kevin O'Hara to Dunfermline. He scored a lot of their goals last year. But there's still a few kind of recognisable names Going back, a Livi link again is Liam Buchanan, who was brilliant for us over these kind of couple of seasons. So what we're thinking for that one, again, it's a much of a muchness, isn't it? You don't really know what to kind of predict or expect from Alloa.
Yeah, it is. It is a tough one to predict. I think Alloa, having looked at their squad, they're in for a long, hard season. I know the championship's been cut to 26 games, I think it is, or 28 games, whatever it is. But I think they're in for a long, hard season. They've not really brought anybody of note into their squad. They've lost, as you mentioned, Kevin O'Hara, 14 goals, 10 assists last season. It was a massive part of their success in staying in the league. Alan Troughton's another one, good player, always caused us problems in the past. And John Robertson, Kevin Colley, good players in the midfield. I know you're not a big fan of Kevin Colley, you're not a particular fan of him and his antics.
He's a diving rat. Is the nicest thing I could say about him. I don't think I've seen him manage to stay on his feet for longer than 5 minutes. Watching him over the years, but yeah, he's one that's always caused us problems because he buys free kicks all the time, just by falling over relentlessly. But I think Alloa, kind of from what I saw of them last year, kind of the Friday night games on the BBC, I was quite impressed with them. I think they play some decent football at times. Try and play with the ball on the ground, try play through the thirds. I think Peter Grant's done a really good job since going in there. Couple of games against Dundee United last year, they absolutely played Dundee United off the park. So I think it will be quite a tricky game, that one. But again, I think the fitness side of things is just going to tell again, and I think our quality will kind of shine through as the game wears on, and I think we will pick them off. But again, it's one of those. It's a bit of a banana skin game. You don't really know what you're going into with these Betfred games.
We'll just go straight into predictions then, lads, because it's really the same as the Edinburgh City game. Trying to figure out what the opposition's going to do. Andy, your prediction?
Like the Edinburgh City game, I think will be far too strong for them, especially at home this time. I know the team's playing similar kind of surfaces and things, so that shouldn't come into play too much. But given a superior squad, let's be honest, we have a massive squad in comparison to Alloa. We can make changes, so Tuesday, Saturday games shouldn't affect us against teams that haven't been playing competitively yet. I think again we'll pick them off. We'll be comfortable in the game. We'll control the game. Alloa will be tough opposition. I think they'll be hard to break down. I think they'll almost play in the sort of Livingston style when we come up against the Rangers and Celtic, sit back and defend for their lives. But I think as soon as we get one, I think we'll get another couple anyway. I'm going to go 4-0 in this game to Livingston. I'm really confident for these games. I just think the competitive edge that we've got will really sort of push us forward and we'll win comfortably here as well. I'm
going to go and repeat Edinburgh City. I'm going to go 3-0 again. I think I agree with you, Andy. If we get one, we'll just, as the game will wear on, I think we'll just pick them off and the kind of fitness and the quality will shine through. I would happily take that as a start to 3-0 wins.
I think it will be 3-1 Livi.
Conceding a goal.
I just think that could be what will happen. 3-1.
Liam Buchanan to get a goal at his old club.
Nice wee consolation, 90th minute.
Heroes welcome in front of the masses in the home stand.
No, Andy, that won't be the case. There's no fans allowed in. I don't know if you know.
Right,
it's kind of the situation we're going through just now. Fans aren't allowed in the ground.
Yeah, really good games to look forward to. Something different for the league. Hopefully we can. I mean, we don't know much about the streaming. If there's going to be any streams of the game, I know Alloa have kind of put something in place for their league games. So whether they sort of have a stream of the game on YouTube or whatever, I know Stranraer have been doing that for their games. Edinburgh City, I know nothing about if they've got any streams. Hopefully we can put something in place. It'd be good to see the game, something a bit different from the league. Big games. I think it's really important we get a good cup run this season, and these games give us a good opportunity to get going in the cup. Hopefully 2 wins to look forward to and keep that momentum up that we've got over the last couple of games in the league as well. That's it for this week's episode of TalkLivi. To check out all our weekly content, go and like our page on Facebook and Instagram and hit follow on our Twitter. They can all be found by searching TalkLivi.
You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube. Search for TalkLivi and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we have done over the last few years.
So that's it for another week. Thanks again to all of you for listening and your continued support of the podcast. But for now, from Andy, Callum and myself, we hope you have a great week.
Livingston, a love will never die. West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ammonvale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Ammonville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, to the Premier